everybody, welcome to the show. My name is Amanda Ostrander. I am a teacher-turned-homeschool mom, and this is Raising A to Z, a place where we talk about all things homeschooling. And today, I'm going to talk about how I either build unit studies or make unit studies usable in my homeschooling. If you've been around for a while, you know that I am a big fan of unit studies. I think it is so incredibly cool when you can take a topic and learn everything about it, learn about the history and the science and the important people, and add in things like literacy and art and do all of those things while you're learning about one topic. It just makes it so much more integrated. You're getting so many more connections, and I think it's great. I also love unit studies because I can let my kids pick topics that they want to learn about, and we get to study what they're actually interested in. And because they're interested in it, I can actually make it deeper and wider than what I would be able to if it was just something that I was telling them they need to learn about. Unit studies are super fun. I love them. I always recommend to parents, especially if you're kind of in a rut, if you have no idea what you want to do. Unit studies are just like the way to go. How do I make them usable in my homeschooling? What does that look like? So basically, if you're interested in unit studies, there's kind of two ways to go about it. There is the pre-made way, and there's the make it your own way. I want to talk about both. Pre-made. If you are buying a pre-made unit study, that's great. Don't feel bad if you're a pre-made. When I first started homeschooling, I made all of my own. And I think it's very different when your kids are like kindergarten and basically you're just like doing fun little activities and, you know, grabbing some books and like that's all their attention can hold. But as your kids get older, you're going to probably want something a little bit more in depth, a little bit more involved. And while you can totally make that on your own, and I occasionally do, there is something so nice about being able to buy something and have at least part of the work done for you. There are a lot of companies out there that do make unit studies that you can either purchase as like just one-offs. There's also a lot of places out there where you can find them for very, very inexpensive or free. So like they're great. You don't have to spend a lot on a good unit study. I've spent everywhere from like gotten them for free. I had an Egyptian unit study last year that I got for free. I've gotten unit studies off of Teachers Pay Teachers for like $2, $3, $4, $5. I've also paid a little bit more for some different unit studies. I've paid for Gather Round, which you can see the whole review on that. But I also, this year, I got two other curriculums, one from Campfire curriculum, something like that, and The Good and the Beautiful. I purchased two from them and they were like around $20. So haven't used them yet, have printed them off. Both look really interesting. So I've done the span. You can buy more expensive ones, you can buy less expensive ones, you can get them for free. But there is something nice about having them pre-made that's like a lot of the work is done for me. How do you use a pre-made unit study? It's going to depend a little bit on the unit study that you have. Some are going to be super complete and are going to have everything that you need in them. Some are going to be a really good spine and then you can just add it to them. So before you go to homemade or pre-made, first off, you're going to pick a topic. You're going to let your kids pick the topic. You can either just straight up ask them, although I will say if you do that, you're going to get some very weird answers. What I do recommend, ask them, tell them you're going to ask them in like a week, remind them throughout the week that you're going to ask them, and then come back and actually ask them. Otherwise you're going to get really random things, because I definitely tried that once and Zoe was like, light, book, that like she just started naming things that she could see because she kind of panicked and didn't know what to learn about, so she just started naming things she could see. Don't do that. Give them some time to like think about it, ponder it, remind them throughout the week, and then you'll get some really cool topics. Because when I did that, I got things like, I want to learn about dogs, and I want to learn about famous women in history, and I want to learn about the ocean, and I want to learn about bees. And like, we got cool topics. We got super cool topics. You just have to let them actually think about it. So once you decided on the topic, then you're going to decide whether you want pre-made or homemade. Sometimes I'm going to say, like I said, pre-made are awesome. There's a wide variety of prices. Homemade is great. Like I said, when I started, I did all homemade, and then I've switched to a lot of pre-made, and I've basically let the topic make the decision for me. So some topics are going to be super easy to find because they're very popular in terms of pre-made unit studies. So for example, ancient Egypt, I got for free because there are literally hundreds and hundreds of ancient Egypt unit studies out there because it is such a popular topic for schools and homeschoolers alike. You can find it pretty much anywhere. So that was an easy thing, right? Some topics lend themselves to be more popular, and as a result, there's probably going to be more options and variety out there. Other topics are going to be a little bit more obscure, and that's where I save my like brain power to making homemade homeschool unit studies. Is I save that for when I have a topic that I just can't find a unit study on. So like we did a unit study on fashion last year. And while my kids absolutely loved it, and we learned a lot about like different types of clothing and some like history around clothing and fashion designers and their lives, and we learned to sew and embroider and all that. We did some really cool stuff. I definitely put all of my energy into that one rather than all the topics that I could easily find a pre-made one for. That's how I do it. You could totally, if you want to home make all of them, go for it. It just takes a lot more time and effort. If you want a pre-made, get them pre-made and buy them. That's awesome. Takes a lot less time, a little bit more money though. So like it is up to you. But like I said, sometimes your topic dictates which way you go in that argument. So let's say you have a unit study topic and you decide to go the pre-made route. What do you got to do? So first off, go and find your unit study. Like I said, there's a lot of great companies out there. Harbor and Sprout. There's Gather Round. Again, my review's up here. The Good and the Beautiful, Campfire Side. I often find most of mine, like I would probably say 50 to 75% of my unit studies, I get off of Teachers Pay Teachers because it's way cheaper than others. And I find that they're really like complete. So you're going to find what you want, obviously, and then you're going to pay for it and print it off. And once you've printed it off, I want you to take some time and go through it and see where it might be lacking. So for me, I often find that most unit studies don't have a novel, and I always like to have a big book with my unit study if possible. Like that's a thing in my brain that I really like to have. So obviously, like if the unit study doesn't come with like a novel that goes with it, or a bigger chapter or smaller chapter, like a chapter book of some kind, then I am going to go find a chapter book that I can like supplement, and like that'll be our bedtime reading with the kids, is we read this book that is on the same topic. That's what I like to do. Are there a lot of hands-on activities in your unit? If not, then maybe you want to go to Pinterest and find a few that you want to like slide in there to make it a little bit more interactive. So you want to take some time, look through it, and decide if you're going to need to add to it. Because like I said, some units are going to be super complete and some are going to be really more of a spine. And that's where you're going to kind of like have to like really fill it in. And so then you're going to start adding. I always start by going to the library or checking my own library collection here and pulling everything I have that's on the topic and getting a whole bunch of picture books and stuff from the library as well. And those become kind of our morning read alouds. Then we do our unit study, whatever activity it is in there. And then once or twice a week, we'll do a hands-on activity. And then obviously our big book at bed. So that's kind of how I like to structure my unit studies. But depending on what I need to add to this unit study, that can be really helpful. Sometimes, like I said, the unit study comes with some like hands-on activities and I can just do those. Sometimes it doesn't, and you need to figure those out. Pinterest is great for that. Just type in topic, hands-on activity, and you'll get a whole bunch of stuff. And then basically I just take my unit study and divide it over the course of a month or 6 weeks or whatever your time frame is, and figure out how many pages we kind of need to do throughout that time period. So we don't do unit studies every day. We do them about like 2 to 3 times a week. And so I'll be like, hey, based off of that, I have 10 days this month. I'm going to take my unit study and divide it by 10 days. And that's what we're going to cover. And that's what we do. We do that. That's how I use my pre-made unit studies. Now, let's get into homemade. If your kids have come to you with a topic and you're like, A, I can't find anything because that's a little bit different. Or B, you're like, I just really want to make it myself, because there are some go-getters out there who just want to make everything themselves, and good for you. Go for it. All the power to you. So now you're going to make your own homemade unit study. What does that do? I always like to say I'm going to include 5 things. I'm going to get very similar to what I'm going to do with my pre-made unit studies. I'm going to get a whole pile of books from the library, from my personal collection. They're going to be my morning read alouds. Everything and anything I can find on this topic. We're going to read anywhere from 1 to 2 to 3 books every morning on this topic. Picture books. We can look at field guides. We can look at informational texts. We can find as much as we can on the topic. number one. Number two, I'm going to find a big book. Similar to the pre-made ones, I'm going to find a chapter book or a novel that somehow links back to my unit study. That is kind of like my best goal. Something that I can read at night with the kids and we can talk about and make bigger connections with, to some of our smaller stories, to other things we're learning about. That's what I'm looking for. So again, we got picture books, we got big books, hands-on activities. We're going to go and look for, especially if you don't have a pre-made unit study, you might not have a lot of like worksheets, in which case you're probably going to do 1 to 2 hands-on activities a week because you want to make it engaging. And so you're going to go again to Pinterest, type in a topic and see hands-on activities and see what comes up. You might have ideas of what you want to do. Maybe you've heard a really cool idea and seen some videos or something like that and you want to do something cool. Definitely pull those in. That's going to be a big chunk of your like learning for the month. A big project, especially if I'm making my own unit study, I like to make a big project. The reason why is because rather than having all of these like workbook times that I would normally be doing with my kids when I get pre-mades, because pre-made unit studies often have worksheets and readings and all of that, I can do a few hands-on activities and then focus on making some kind of big project. I just find it gives my kids kind of like a nice big end goal and an end result that at the end they can show their learning. So in the past, we've done things like we did sarcophaguses and mummies for ancient Egypt. We did dioramas for habitats. We've done a couple others like bigger projects, and those actually work out really cool. We've really enjoyed making those like bigger projects. So we have a big project at the end, and it's something that we can like break down and work into like different sections and work on that a few times a week. It's awesome. I love it. Big project. And then you're going to probably want to go and find some videos. I think they say video is king because it's so entertaining and it's just so much information and visual stimuli and auditory stimuli. There's so much going on in video that it's fantastic. And if you can find videos that go with your topic, you can get a lot of learning in without a lot of effort for yourself. You can find YouTube videos. You can find documentaries. Also, don't be afraid of looking at like cartoons. You'd be amazed at how many like connections you can make. So often we watch a movie at dinner time. My husband teaches. He's home by like 3:30. So we do what did you do today very early, and then by the time dinner time comes around, we've like been talking for like 2-3 hours at that point. So we watch a movie as a family, and often that movie is related to our unit study. So sometimes we pull documentaries, sometimes we pull different like live action movies or even animated movies. So like last year when we were doing fashion, we definitely watched Cruella. It was fantastic. The kids were able to watch and say like, oh, that's a dress form. We learned about that when we were learning this. See, she's making the pattern. Okay, so the pattern is like the thing that we used when we were making our dresses. We were doing all those kinds of things while watching the movie. Like there's so many movies and things out there. Don't be afraid to pull like Hollywood stuff as well. Because sometimes A, it's fun, and B, you're going to be amazed at the connections they make. Like Finding Nemo when you're doing an oceans unit, awesome. Fantastic. The amount of like information that happens in the Finding Nemo movie, like when they go down and they look for the fish that has the little light on it, the anglerfish. It's an anglerfish. I don't remember. My kids were like, oh, that's the abyss. The abyss is down here. Yeah. Oh, okay. Now they're up in the twilight zone. Now they're in there. Like the amount of learning that they're doing, but it's also helping them connect and put it all together in kind of like their brains. Like, yes, we've learned it, but now we've seen it. Now we can make the connections. And that's what we want to do. We want to find ways to make a lot of connections. And so that is why I love videos and bringing videos into your homeschooling, especially when you're making your own unit study, because then the kids don't have to listen to you and you don't have to lecture. So, and that's it. That's it. That's all you need to make a really awesome unit study. So whether it's pre-made, whether it's homemade, unit studies are awesome. I highly recommend you try them, especially if you're kind of in a rut give them a try. It might change your whole homeschooling experience, because it certainly is a key part of our homeschooling. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe and click the bell to get notifications. Make sure you're following me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and then you can see what it's like to do unit studies. And if you are a member, I do a unit study walkthrough every single month of the unit that I did, how we did it, what activities we did, what books we read, all of that kind of stuff. If you want to get that, then you'll definitely want to become a YouTube member. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.